Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Good evening. My name is Russell Brooks. Tonight's show will focus on the upcoming school board election in the Braddock District of Fairfax County. You may know that there is an open seat on the board due to the election of Rachna Sizemore-Heiser to the County Board of Supervisors. One of the candidates who will be competing for the Democratic endorsement for the school board seat at the January 10th Firehouse Caucus is tonight's guest, Alexa Krezel. Alexa, welcome to Inside Scoop.
Thank you so much, Russell. Pleasure to be here.
It's our pleasure to have you. Can you start by sharing a bit about your background and what brought you to Fairfax County? How long have you lived in Fairfax County?
My husband and I have been here almost 20 years now. We moved to Fairfax County specifically in 2005. And we moved with the intention of finding a quality school system for our son, who wasn't yet born at the time, but we knew we were going to have kids. And it was really about hearing, as we arrived in the area, we had moved as young adults to establish our careers. We actually lived in Montgomery County for a little while, Arlington for a little while. And not to sound too Goldilocks, Fairfax County was sort of the just right for what we were looking for. And certainly hearing the reputation of the school system from friends that we had established in the area, and doing our own research. And the proximity to DC could not be beat because we wanted that work-life balance as we planned to send our child to school when that child arrived. For us, I think the only struggle was the affordability question. Certainly when we arrived, it was clear how much it costs to find somewhere to live and potential sacrifices that we would need to make to live in Fairfax County, find a home, and benefit from the school system. So, we did early on in our career. We were living paycheck to paycheck, like many people in the county, but we felt satisfied with our choice to find schools. We waited almost 9 years to have our son.
9 years.
Yeah. One thing about me is I'm a planner, and I think about the economic factors in raising a family. And so we waited with an intention to make sure that we could, make the choices to raise what is now our son, who is a junior in high school, that we felt we needed. And I think I know a lot of families in the area, that's the thing that they're balancing is we want good schools. We want, a home to live in. But it's not always easy to afford those things. And so for us, that was the right choice. And, we recognize, one thing I recognize in myself is that we've had a lot of luck. We've been very fortunate. But part of that luck, is some people often say, is something that I believe in strongly is continuous education. Both my husband and myself, we came here for my husband to study his master's degree as a grad student. And a couple years after I had been in college, I went after a master's degree in instructional systems design, which has to do with building curriculum. It was an area that I was very interested in. I now build learning programs for adults. And so, also having those educational opportunities within this region are important as well. So a lot of factors, but at the heart of it, I don't think there's a lot of folks who can deny that FCPS carries with it a quality brand of education. It's a large school system, and it delivers.
Sure. Now, what personal experiences have shaped your thoughts on public education?
Yeah, so similarly enough, I grew up in Miami-Dade County, which is another large school system. And so for my personal experience, I kind of felt like I knew what I was looking for, because I won't say how many years ago it was that I was in high school, but I had access to AP and IB, International Baccalaureate programs, rich foreign language programs. I even had opportunities to have internships in high school. And so I was looking for those factors in any school system that I would choose. But contrast that with my own experience. My husband came from a very small school system in Connecticut that did not have honors, did not have AP programs, did not have that rich of a curriculum. And his educational experience was very different. He was very self-driven, very parental involvement. I mean, parental involvement in a way that had to do that navigation of finding experiences and resources that weren't in a school system that had as many programs. So I think I bring that to it, having the two extremes. And then finally, going to college, leaving Miami, I attended University of Connecticut. And when I was going on, leaving home at 17, was at the time, if many people remember, Hurricane Andrew hit Miami. And I was a teenager, not quite yet a young adult, hadn't figured out, all the ways to navigate things. And my parents needed to head back home quicker than probably most college students, when they get dropped off. And I knew I had to navigate this new system, this new environment. And I found a bit of comfort in how well designed some of the systems in the college environment were. And I was able to ask questions and find what I needed to be a successful student and develop and grow up. And so I kind of carried that, I always carry a very systems-based approach to how I look at things. Is the system easy for the user? And it's a lot of what I do in work today. And I look at all of these instances in my life of, how well designed is the system for the student, for the parent, for the community member to be able to navigate.
Good. Now, you've been a volunteer leader with Fairfax County Public Schools, starting when your son was only 2. What motivated you, and how have you been involved?
Yeah, so I think, at first, admittedly, it was a very personal-based motivation, as I just alluded to. When you think about systems, when you know that you're going into a large school system like Fairfax County, I said to myself, if I'm going to advocate for my son, I needed to learn how the system worked. And I was fortunate. I was appointed by a school board member as I had discovered this area of focus by the school board, the Career and Technical Education Advisory Committee. And at the early instant, it was this perfect fit. Here I was, a workforce development professional, where I spend my time developing learning programs for adults, considering questions around the skills that adults need to be effective. And I could take that skill set and apply it to our K through 12 pipeline and look at, and give insight into that experience. And, again, it started out as advocacy for my son, but I think, as many people experience when they volunteer in a role, you quickly start to realize how you can advocate for others. And for me, it was about sharing with students and parents the richness of opportunities that are in Fairfax County Public Schools, how to think about their education, not just from math, science, social studies, English, but to have, how to infuse experiences that help students discover what they're passionate about. Anecdotal story I'll tell you is, so my son, when he was, I think, about 6th grade, one of the great experiences in Fairfax County Public Schools Career and Technical Education program is they run summer programs. And I said, okay, I've been doing this a while. I'm going to send him to the summer program and see, what the experience is like. And I can remember he came home one day and he said he had taken this automotive class, little automotive sampler, and he came home and he could not stop talking about and telling us and instructing us, Mom, Dad, did you know you need to clean your headlights on your car? And describing every little element about how a headlight gets dirty, how you take care of it, how you can self-uninstall it. And at that moment, you could see the excitement that doesn't necessarily come home with them when they're in math class or English class. And so for me, a couple years on the committee, that was like the translation mode of saying, these programs are doing what they need to do. They're important. They are valuable to our students. And we have to continue the messaging and the outreach so that parents know what's available to them.
That's fascinating. Quickly, because we only have about 45 seconds left, but what motivated you to run for Fairfax County School Board at this moment?
So I think, as I've alluded to really quickly, my background in workforce development, you quickly realize schools are critical. They're a backbone of our economy. If we get K through 12 right, we tell different economic stories at the end.
Well, we are going to have to pause our conversation for a short break, but I'm going to ask our audience to please stay with us. We'll return with more from Alexa Krezel when we come back with more of our Inside Scoop on Fairfax County Schools.
So, I just moved in with this family, and it's embarrassing. The little one, he likes to go outside and crawl around in the giant litter box. I don't know what he's doing. I mean, I was born and I knew how to use the litter box. Look at that. That's disgusting. Oh, poop already. You're making me nervous. Oh, okay, I can't look at this anymore. I really hope he grows out of this, for his sake.
So how was work?
It was 1,300 hours. My math class from 302 was in the trenches. Davy Roth had it the worst. Fractions were coming at him left and right. He just didn't get the damn things. 2 days ago, I tried to teach him what 1/4 of 1/2 was using different sizes of blocks. Yesterday, I tried again by dividing up pizza. Both missions failed.
Oh, no.
But today, I was ready. I created a combat math game where the only way to beat the enemy is to out-fraction them. Davy conquered every last denominator. My game was so successful, the principal is deploying it to math squadrons all over the school. Anywho, how was your day?
Oh, today my boss treated the office to salad wraps.
Salad wraps.
I know.
150 over 90.
180 over 111.
160 over 110. I had a stroke.
This is what high blood pressure looks like. You might not feel its symptoms, but the results from a stroke are far from invisible or silent. If you've come off your treatment plan, get back on it or talk with your doctor to create an exercise, diet, and medication plan that works for you. Go to loweryourhbp.org.
If I would have followed a treatment plan, I would not be in this situation.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
I'm the host, Russell Brooks, joined by my guest, Alexa Krezel, who is seeking the Democratic endorsement for the open Braddock District School Board seat. Alexa, you were describing what motivated you to run for the school board. Could you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, thanks, Russell. It took a bit of time to put the pieces together to really examine the motivation, and it really comes down to my background in workforce development, seeing, after living here for almost 20 years, seeing the connective tissues between our schools and developing a rich workforce. Sometimes we talk about K through 12 education as a driver of our economy, but it's still with a little bit of a separated voice. And I really believe that, especially today, with the conversations that are happening in our workforces, the changes that we're looking at facing, that it's critical that we shape K through 12 education to meet the moment that we're in. And so I'm just very passionate about ensuring that our students are ready, because in the long run, the way I see it is you get a student ready and they can be agile within the system, because then they can be a benefit to our economy. Mm-hmm. And I think the word agility is important because that's what's changing. Today isn't about your computer science degree or your communications degree necessarily. Today is about the skills. And some of those skills are what some people term as soft skills, power skills. It's, can you face change? Do you have agility? Do you have that ability to pivot? And so how do you give that space to our K through 12 students so that they are ready to either continue on with their education to develop that, or in the times that we're facing, to go into the workforce? I think that's becoming more a possibility, a more prevalent conversation than it had been in the past. So that's why I'm running today.
So I get the sense that workforce development has become a major focus of your campaign. Is that correct? Yeah, it is. But I think it's important because I think people worry that it's a singular issue. And one thing I've learned as my own professional, there's a phrase that we often talk about, which is begin with the end in mind, right? And what that means is, through all the different milestones, all the different trials and tribulations that parents will face when you're raising a child in K through 12, ultimately, we're all looking for the same. What will they be when they grow up? And so I think having that lens, looking at that picture, is an important vantage point to bring to a role like school board, right? Yes, we're concerned about the early education, and the strategic plan of the current school board has been very thoughtful to think about both ends of the spectrum, to think about how are we supporting our students in early education, in pre-K education, so that they get off on the right starting point. But also, we do have a strategic goal focused on being ready for the future and that career focus. And bringing that work into greater focus is something, yes, I am very passionate about. Yeah, it comes across loud and clear. But thinking about the campaign itself for this seat, what has been the hardest thing about running for school board? I really think the hardest thing about running for school board is the potential of all the noise in the campaign. You're running a campaign, you're thinking about multiple things, but ultimately it comes down to one key thing, which is how are we going to serve
parents, families, students, our teachers in the workforce, and the community. And keeping that in front is critical as you go through this. And it is the focus of the campaign. But as you know, when you run a political campaign, you can have sidetracks of, how's your Facebook presence going? How's your Instagram account going? And I've never been that person. When I was putting this campaign together, everybody's like, do you have pictures like this of you in the picture? My pictures are of students. They're not of me in the picture. And so I've been coached a lot. You got to take more selfies. That's just not me. I'm all about, putting the students in focus, if you will.
So it sounds like the hardest thing is making yourself, at least for purposes of the campaign, the focus of attention.
Yeah. It's just, that's not who I'm naturally. I've always been about putting the focus on others.
Okay, understandable. Now, back to others. You served nearly 10 years as an appointee to that career and technical education advisory committee, including as the chairperson in 2023 to 2024. So talk to me a little bit about that work and what you see as some of your achievements during that time.
Yeah, I think some of our biggest achievements in that work was, it's going to sound small, but it's been about continuing to bring the light onto CTE programs. It's about getting the academic credentialing and recognition. I mean, very early on in our tenure, it took us a couple years to get honors credit assigned to CTE programs. The academic process that happens at the state level and happens naturally is a very time-consuming process. But that's critical because it's how people see the program. Fairfax County Public Schools, very diverse community, but to a large extent, we are also very, I would say, some of us are very academically intense. And students often make choices because if they are going on to college, especially now in this competitive environment, they're asking questions, well, if I don't take an honors course, will it look bad, right? And the truth be known, in the CTE program, the level of difficulty that there is, as well as the level of math, science elements that are in many of the programs, getting that recognition from the committee was incredibly important. Goes along as well, we worked a lot to get industry credentials available to students. We have now, last year we had about 16,000 students who received industry credentials that enabled them to walk out of high school, to pursue careers. A common one, for example, you can walk out graduating as a pharmacy technician. Which many people might have your reaction, don't know. Sure. That is possible to do today. And then another part has, as we've done that work, is being smart about bringing the right data into the conversation. Another part of my workforce development that I've, over the last couple of years, really got into is analytics and data to answer questions. And education is known for having a lot of data, but having the right data. For us, it meant examining where are our course programs, who's really taking them, where are their gaps. I know in my son's own high school, it's a great high school, but from a CTE perspective, it's a little bit of what I would call a desert of CTE programs. And so that's something that has led me here as well, is to ensure that we really look at the distribution of our programs and the availability to ensure that we've got equity across the system.
So I also detect that building pathways to success for all students is one of the themes of your campaign, but tell me more.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we talk about pathways, and certainly in my day job, we use that term a lot because that's what learning has become, is looking at a set of skills and figuring out how do we deliver pathways. And right now in FCPS, having been through most of the program, now having a junior in high school, some of the conversations can lean a little heavy on, are you going for the advanced diploma or the regular diploma? And I will tell you personally, in my own journey, we really thought about that decision, mainly because of what it meant in terms of requirements from each diploma and the ability to put together pathways, if you will. The ability to do something like take back-to-back programs to gain a professional certification. Ultimately, we did go with the state's advanced diploma, but having that ability to talk to students and say, what is it that you want to do? What does that look like? And then telling them not about the diploma, but about programs and how they can form a progression in the programs, right? Having that conversation with students that say, oh, you're interested in maybe being a pharmacist? Did you know we have this? And if you want to go all the way, you're going to need to map out 2 years of time. Or, you know, students who are veterinary techs, that's another area. Same type of thing. Sometimes what we find in the CTE arena is students discover that too late. And so they realize suddenly they don't have the 2 or 3 years that they need to walk out credentialed. And so when I think about talking about pathways, it's about changing the conversation not only about your diploma, but what are the skills and the programs that you're interested in going to achieve, and how do we help you get there?
Now, we have about a minute remaining. What partnership with employers or unions in higher education would you like to see strengthened?
Yeah, I think we're in a unique space and opportunity. Certainly from a workforce development perspective, we know that we have mass retirements happening in all industries. During this campaign, I've talked to a lot of tradespeople. I think there's opportunities to bring some of those partnerships in to our education.
Okay. Now, it's time for another short break, but please stay tuned as we continue our conversation with Alexa Krezel, when we return with more of our conversation about her race to become the next school board member for the Braddock School District on Inside Scoop.
Nice going, Spencer! I can't believe we broke Old Man Hennessy's window.
Correction, dude. You broke. I just threw the ball.
This is really bad. What are we gonna do?
We?
Go to the door, ask for the ball back. Are you serious?
It's my ball, Myrtlebeck.
You're so dead. I'd run away.
Yeah, to Uruguay.
Kiss your life goodbye. Sorry.
Let's go. See ya. Remember me and your well.
Nice one. Some friends you are.
Keep smiling, keep shining.
Hi. Tell him it was an accident. And we can fix the window. Come on. I'll come with you.
Loyalty. Pass it on.
You go first.
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
One day these rats were playing in the woods. Well, it's a matches and that's no good. Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about nothing very nice. Homeless mind. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
Awkward. I'm the awkward silence. You try to avoid me, then there I am again.
But an awkward silence can be a great thing.
Like Kelly here is about to demonstrate.
You haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health
at seizetheawkward.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Hi, I'm Russell Brooks, joined by tonight's guest, Alexa Krezel, who is seeking the open Braddock District seat on the Fairfax County School Board. Let's continue. What are the challenges you're hearing from families and educators about the challenges they are facing right now?
Thanks. Yes, I think particularly this year, 2025, has been a year filled with challenges, particularly in Fairfax County and this area. I can speak for families as well as for myself. The changes in the federal government, has brought economic uncertainty, and with that, school, something that I talk about on my website, is expected to be that place of stability for families. Routines in schools become incredibly important when everything else around you is in somewhat bit of chaos. And so I think what I've been hearing from families is a common challenge that I've faced in my own career, which is how much change do you put into the system, right? As a workforce development professional, we often talk about the concept of change management, and that is a multi-layered concept. But what it really comes down to is what I'm hearing from families is, what we've faced with the school system. We've had boundary changes. We've had discussions of, although, paused, should we change the start times of schools? We've had, AI conversations. And FCPS parents are very supportive. They're very passionate. The number one thing that they ask for is communication, transparency, and awareness. And again, FCPS is a large school system. So sort of cracking the communication and transparency nut, I will acknowledge it can be a tough one. And when you watch school board sessions, like just happened a couple weeks ago, parents getting up and saying that they felt unaware about decisions around the usage of ChatGPT. Right now, where I'm in the campaign and looking at that, I'm a parent experiencing that. I know, I've got eyes more on things because I'm campaigning. I go back to thinking about what is the experience, what is the communication that's happening, that parents are not feeling connected along the way. I don't want to, it's never about pointing fingers at people. It's understanding that there's a lot going on in a parent's life. I know before I started to run for school board, my rule was I checked my PTA newsletter, I checked what came from my principal. That's about all I could, and especially as you go up the ladder to high school, the communication noise just gets larger and larger. And so I have a real lens as I go through the campaign and my background to think about what is the experience. And the school system is actually addressing some of this. Coming out in January, there's going to be a student experience survey to ask, how do students feel about their learning experience? That's a common thing to do in the corporate environment, ask an employee experience survey.
Absolutely.
They've done that a little bit, asking a parent experience. But I think a key factor as I look to be on school board is always about doing what I call closing the loop. It's like there are multiple good intentions across the school board, across all stakeholders, but sometimes you don't come to the end. You don't close the loop. You don't give the feedback. You don't give the learnings of what has happened. And I think that's somewhere that I'd really like to focus, is making sure that our community, our parents, feel that they are connected all the way through key decisions.
Sure. I think this question may relate to some of what you were just describing. What does belonging mean to you in the context of public education and the issues facing FCPS schools?
This is really, really important, and I'll start back, at my work, because believe it or not, a lot of time in the workplace is talked about focusing on psychological safety. How do you feel when you come to work? How do you feel about bringing your whole self to work? And I think the same standards need to apply, more importantly, to our students. These are young children turning into young adults who need to feel a sense of psychological safety to explore who they are as they go on this journey. And so I think the policies and the environment that we create in FCPS is incredibly important. It needs to feel safe, inclusive. There needs to be trust, empathy, and respect coming from all sides, right? That to me is what belonging should look like for our students in FCPS.
Sure. By the fact that that's an issue, are you suggesting that at least some students possibly don't feel that belonging?
Yeah, there's definitely certainly a number of conversations that I've had with parents. It's not consistent. Mm-hmm. There are some fantastic school experiences, and there are student experiences where they don't feel like they belong, and we have to look at that from an impact to their education, because if you don't feel safe, you don't feel like you belong, it will impact how you learn and your learning experience, and it will take away from their ability to learn.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the attributes of the schools or administrators, teachers that are succeeding in that area of giving students that sense of belonging, or maybe in communicating properly and adequately with the parents?
I think you hit the nail on the head, right? They're using communication styles, they're using language with students that creates that belonging for them, that sees who they are at the moment. So it is incumbent on us, and as somebody who does learning and development, some of those things have to come from training engagements, conversations with staff about what is needed to create a psychologically safe environment for students.
Mm-hmm. What's your leadership style?
What's my leadership style? So, as I was developing campaign materials, it kind of just came about, and I think it really speaks. I work with people. A lot of campaigns will say, I work for people. I work with people. When I was Canterbury Woods PTA president, yes, I had a presidential title. That's not what I was there for. I was there to work with parents, teachers, the principal, to create a school environment that supported our students. And a matter of fact, when you go through these campaigns, you go through your archives of documents, and I found a post by my principal of my time at PTA. And it was really, I think, exemplified. It was a thank you for supporting the principal to buy academic materials. I was president during COVID, so we had unique challenges of how do we continue to create this environment in this virtual, space, and it spoke to that. And I think, going back to the number one piece, one thing that I always like to highlight with PTA work is when you do PTA work, one thing that you discover is the critical holes that they address in the education system, and PTAs are partners for bringing in academic programs to their schools, providing resources, and we've seen, this year, through several years, as we continue to see low budgets, the way PTAs are advocating and talking about is how do we fill some of the financial gaps that we're experiencing. And that's fantastic, but it also raises an equity issue, right? I live in a particular district, my PTA raising funds, pretty easy for us. It's not it's not the same across the board. And so I'm always out there kind of talking to that in my leadership style is, to be behind the scenes, supportive, but also thinking about how do we do better across the board.
I have to believe that is music to a parent's ears, that you appreciate and compliment the PTAs for their critical role in making the school system work.
Yeah, I mean, all the boosters, all the PTAs, I mean, when you really lift the hood up underneath them, currently right now, I'm actually volunteering as the What's an Orchestra booster president because I haven't had enough going on. I just love being in the schools, but one of the things that each one of these volunteer experiences sort of reveals is, yes, I'm raising money so that my orchestra can have experiences, but I also raise money so that they can purchase chairs, music stands, right? Things that people, I don't know that in the budget discussions would think about the total, what I call the total cost of what it costs to educate our students. So.
Sounds like you want to meet the parents and the students where they are.
I do. I think we really have to, this is where I'm definitely not a politician. I think you have to be really real and honest about what does it cost to educate our students? Where are the gaps, right? And not because we're necessarily going to be able to fix them all, but it helps to build trust in the community to say, oh, I get it now, right? FCPS, yes, it's expensive, but I can see the value, I can see the returns, I can see where the money is going.
And it sounds like maybe in the past, maybe people didn't see or have enough information about that value, about where the money is going.
It's a difficult statement to say it that way. I think I'll take my sort of process improvement lens. I think FCPS has gotten a lot better about telling the budget story, but there's always room to improve.
Well, that sounds like a professional saying there's always room to improve, and I suspect no one would disagree with that. So once again, we must take a short break, and then we will conclude our final segment. We will return with more with Alexa Krezel on this program about the schools on Inside Scoop.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. I already posted it.
I got a crick in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. I'm scared of. It's very sad that I can do this, but remember you know I usually say no, but if you throw me love, I'll throw you some more.
It's a big responsibility.
Oh, it's huge. I know, it's huge.
And the salary.
Oh my god, yes.
Right?
I mean, like I was about to move in with my parents, and right before, so this saved me.
I really believe in you, you know.
Thank you. It's nice to hear that from someone.
These are cool. Did you what did?
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Hi, I'm Russell Brooks, and I want to continue with this great conversation with Alexa Krezel. We touched on this a little bit earlier, but I want to go a little further. What kind of leader will you be on the school board?
Yeah, I see myself, this will maybe really date me, somebody who people might see me as the quiet person, but I think I can carry a pretty big stick.
Oh, wow, you're going to hit people?
No, but I think, in this environment, people are often concerned with being the person who, the definition of fighting for our community, for our students, I think has been boxed into being the loudest person in the room.
Sure.
That's not my style. I have a lot of things out there politically that I fight for, that I'm passionate for. But when I think about being a school board leader, it means doing my job well. And what that means for my campaign and what we're looking to do is, again, number one, ensure that our students are ready for what's coming in the future. For me, that's making sure that we've got equity in our program delivery, that for every celebration that happens in a school over students having a great Excel moment, winning a competition, having the ability to experience the competition, I'm going to be asking, is that happening across the board? Is that opportunity available evenly across the county? That our students can really explore who they are as individuals, but also when we think of their careers and their pathways, right? Do we give them the tools to become young adults who may graduate and go into the workforce immediately, or go on to college? Either way, we've got to, as I've said earlier, deliver a set of skills that go beyond perhaps what they're getting just in math, science, English, and traditional curriculum. And we've got to be communicative and transparent with the community when there are big shifts in policy and programs. I think, as a potential new board member, I don't know all of the rules of the road, but what I've seen in my lifetime with my student is that when questions arise, it's usually from missteps in that communication continuum that I sort of alluded to, is missing a point along the line of how we introduce something to families, or how we follow up with them along the way, or how we close the loop. And so that is very key. And along with that comes bringing, the right data to the conversations to show how successful we are as a public school system. Now, as an educational system, there's a lot of data in the system. No one can deny that. But is there the right data? And often you will see in the school board meetings, questions asking for information.
Or is the data being interpreted correctly?
Yeah, or is the data being interpreted correctly? So I think with my background, with my experience, I can help make that better. Again, it's about it's about improvement, sure. Right? You talk to many people. It's on the spectrum, on the campaign. I run into people who are like Fairfax County Public Schools is fantastic. I had a great experience with my student. Absolutely nothing bad to say. Then you have those moments where it doesn't go so well. So you're always going to be asking the question of, okay, how do I make it better, right? And we've had many school board members who have done exactly that. They've really made areas much better for students. And I think we need to be open about talking like that's process improvement, but acknowledge when things just don't happen the way that we want them to be. So those are really my 3 key areas on the school board of what I look to bring.
Okay, you've outlined quite a bit there. But if there is one message that you want families and educators to take away from your campaign, one central overriding message, what would that be?
I think as a good school board member, I will work with you. And what that looks like, what that means is meeting you where you are. As tumultuous as COVID was for many of us, there were some things that came out of it that benefit us. Today, you see the school board having more dual hybrid meetings where parents can be participating but can be home or on the road participating for meetings. They've engaged multilingual interpreters for their meetings so that it feels more inclusive. Those are all good things that came out of realizing, hey, we can do things virtually. I mean, as a PTA leader during COVID, I will tell you one of the benefits was I went from having PTA meetings at the school, had maybe 10, 15 people who would show up on a regular basis, to having 60, 70 people show up on a virtual meeting. It became easier, it became accessible. And so, I will be that person. I'm going to meet you where you are. I've alluded to like the communications, right? And my own experience of, making sure consistently that important messages come to where parents are. They're focused on what's happening in their school, what's coming from their principal. I think those are all good tactics to make sure that we have consistency in the way that we deliver.
Of course. Now I'm going to make your campaign manager really, really happy with this next question. How can community members get involved in your campaign or learn more about your goals and objectives?
Yeah, great question. They can check out my website, Alexa for School Board. It's got all of our priorities on the website, our focus, how they can volunteer. We are having numerous, we still have Canvas launches coming up. And during the first week of January, I will be doing coffee talks.
What are coffee talks?
With the community. I'm going to local coffee shops to meet with people and engage with the public. I'm a heavy coffee drinker, so I know the coffee joints around town, and I look forward to connecting with folks and just being there to listen, understand where their experience is, because campaigns aren't static. They change along the way, and they change because we're listening, and we're taking what we're hearing, and we want to be responsive to that. That's going to be our job.
Let me delve into that a little bit. Campaigns change because you're listening. You're changing in terms of your strategy, you're changing in terms of your messaging, you're changing in terms of your approach out there when the stuff.
Just taking note of what's really important. I mean, I think it goes back to what I've been talking about. Certainly the big campaign themes I've heard out on the road is, people value communication. That's been a key message of ours because that's what we came in. But what that means to each parent, what that looks like, right? sort of strategies, tactics, I think has been an example that has influenced me, And as I think about the operations of being on the board, of what things could be, that's where I'm going.
Okay. What I think some parents will ask if they were in this position is, how do you keep that up, that ability to hear from them once maybe you're in office? Now, I know you have your school board meetings, and some people are going to attend those and express their opinions about AI in the schools or whatever happens to be. But I think it may be true that not everyone can make those meetings for whatever reason, but still would love the opportunity to hear from you and express their opinions to you. Or am I totally off base?
No, I think that's, a big part of being a school board member is being where people are. And so certainly coming from being a PTA president, I would see myself leveraging those relationships with PTAs, making sure that it's not just showing up when something goes wrong, but showing up on a regular basis, in those forums, as well as having general community forums. There are several school board members that I look to as examples who, regularly draw together events to bring their community together to talk about topics that are in formation on the school board. And again, I see an evolution on the school board of making those accessible to be able to be in person as well as online. So I would see myself taking a model from some of those school board members. I think of my own corporate environment. You have some of those meetings that you have on a quarterly basis, on a monthly basis, figuring out what that rhythm is to reach the most of my constituency in an effective manner.
Mm-hmm. I asked you about maybe what was the hardest thing during your campaign, but maybe what's the most surprising thing that you've encountered during the campaign?
That's a great question. The most surprising thing that I've encountered during the campaign, I don't know that probably the biggest surprise is how effective it's been keeping the weight off right now.
You surprised me with that answer. Well, we've had a great discussion tonight. But we're out of time. So let me thank Alexa Krezel for this illuminating conversation. I hope you will come back soon. And thank you, the audience. Please join us again next week for another edition of Inside Scoop. Good night.